A $500 million AI factory is set to be built in Armenia as a collaboration between Firebird, NVIDIA, Team Group, and the Government of Armenia. This will establish the region's first large-scale AI facility. Today, we have the opportunity to speak to people who are behind this project. Our guests are founders of Firebird, Rազմիգ Հովակիմյանն and Ալեքսանդր Եսայանը, and Rev Lebaredian from NVIDIA. Thank you for accepting our invitation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for inviting us.
So let's start at the beginning. How did you come up with the idea of creating AI factory in Armenia, and what brought your teams together?
I think it's better Rev to
That's
take
right.
this question
That's
as he
right.
started earlier than we are thinking about it. Please, Rev.
The seeds of this started back in 2018, shortly after the revolution. I was invited to come meet with the Prime Minister, with Prime Minister Pashinyan, to help advise on technology. And I advised him on what is about to start happening with AI. Mind you, this is 7 years ago. Most people in the world weren't thinking about it, let alone governments, any government really. Fast forward a few months later, the Prime Minister made his first trip to the United States. He came to California. And during that trip, we invited him to visit NVIDIA. And he visited our headquarters, met with our CEO, Jensen Huang. And the idea of building an AI factory started in that meeting. When the Prime Minister asked our CEO, what should Armenia do to develop its high-tech sector, to make it a viable place where a company like NVIDIA would like to form an office and invest, he responded saying, well, if you are serious about high-tech, you have to be serious about computer science and computing. And if you're serious about that, the future is all about AI. And the basic instrument, the basic need, the basic thing that all researchers and startup tech companies and big companies alike need is a supercomputer for AI. So you should do for your people what I did for mine. Jensen's people are his employees, so he had built many supercomputers for us, for our researchers and our engineers to advance AI and the future of computer science. So he should do the same for Armenia. And so the idea started at that point. No, we started thinking about it then, and we tried many different ways to make this happen. At the time, the Minister of Technology, although it wasn't called the High-Tech Ministry then, was Hagop Arshakyan. He was there at the first meeting I had with the Prime Minister, as well as in California with Jensen Huang. Right after that meeting, I started working with him to see how we might be able to form such a project and bring a supercomputer to Armenia. And we were making some progress, but unfortunately, 2020 came, we had COVID, and then we had the war, and it put all of that on hold. A few years later, when the war with Ukraine and Russia happened, we had employees in Russia, in Moscow, an office that I had formed 20 years ago. Many of those employees started showing up in Armenia, and that opened the opportunity for us to potentially help our employees by creating an office here. So I called up Hagop Arshakyan, and I said, I think we can open an office in Armenia. Will you help me? And he said, of course. And with his help and the Prime Minister's help, we managed to quickly establish an office in Armenia, bring our employees here and help them and their security. And that kind of opened the door for us to restart the discussions about the supercomputer. With NVIDIA's presence here, we can potentially support such a thing. And so this was 2022. Right after we opened the office, I started these discussions again with everyone I could find. And eventually, I found Alik, who was very, very passionate and aggressive about doing this. He wanted to try to get this going as quickly as possible and invest. And we got pretty far, but we were missing a piece of the puzzle. It's not sufficient to just have money and capital to build something like this. You need many, many resources and things to come together. So one part of it, a big part, is money. That's the $500 million you were talking about. You need to figure out how to get all of that. You also need to have access to the actual computing equipment, which not every country can import easily. There are export control issues, and these are considered very, very sensitive types of computing equipment. For example, we can't export them to China as we speak, so we had to go settle that. You also have to figure out who are going to be the customers, the renters of the computing equipment, because without that, it's impossible to raise the money. You have to make sure that there is going to be a guarantee of enough usage of it in order to justify that investment, so you can go borrow the money or get the investment necessary to do that. And so we couldn't figure that out. We couldn't find enough to do that. And so fast forward another year and a half or so, last year at WCIT, we had the confluence of all the right things coming together to make this happen. I was here. I gave the keynote for the WCIT conference. Alik was obviously here. Rազմիգ had come into town, and he had independently, apparently, noticed that we have excess energy capacity because of our nuclear reactor, and suggested to Alik that maybe we should build an AI factory. And Rազմիգ, given his background and his position inside Silicon Valley with all of his connections, could help us find that final puzzle piece, connecting the customers, what we call offtake, to the project, so that we can get the investment going. We also had Nubar Afeyan here in town at that time, and all of us know everyone. Nubar's been looking to invest in something big like this for Armenia as well. And Nubar is the other co-founder of Firebird. He just is not here physically, so unfortunately he can't be in this interview. But he joined in as an investor, and also importantly as a off-taker. His biotech companies, from Flagship Pioneering, Moderna, all of those are potential users of it. And so we got all of the pieces kind of put together, collected offtake from any other Armenian companies that might potentially be users of AI, and that was enough. Just enough for NVIDIA to also come in and say, all right, we'll help support all of you in this. Put the pieces together over 6-7 months. It's taken us, and that led up to a few weeks ago at GTC Paris, where we could announce this. We have all the puzzle pieces in place, and we made the puzzle, and now it's off to the races to go build it, and build it as quickly as possible.
This probably answers your next 5 questions too, but to visualize what Rev is saying, we planted the seed with the government. Alik and I met in the garden. As we're looking, Nubar was coming through the gate, and it's really turning into a factory that's world-class. The vision with this group is to really build it from Armenia to the world, and this is where it starts. It's an incredible group. I think all of us in our careers probably feel lucky and blessed to have done great things, but this is a special one. It took an incredible group to get it done. But if you guys hadn't started, and without the government support we've gotten and getting,
Absolutely.
You wouldn't have gotten here.
The government is also a critical portion of this, in that they will take some of the capacity from Firebird and share that with our research institutions, with our universities, and with the startup companies and the innovative tech companies, to give our researchers, our engineers, a lead, an advantage over everyone else in the world. In the same way Jensen Huang, our CEO, gave NVIDIA's researchers and engineers an advantage over everyone else, because we understood this early. NVIDIA today is the largest company in the world. It's approaching $4 trillion in market cap. But when we started doing this, when we started the idea of AI and AI factories, NVIDIA was, I don't even know, a tiny fraction of the size it is today. Most people had never heard of NVIDIA. I bet you probably hadn't heard of it. But we could imagine that in the future, if we built this, our engineers, our researchers would have such an advantage and be so far ahead of everyone else. What we'll build it will be so great and we'll have such an advantage that we could keep that going. And so now NVIDIA is enjoying that. We'd like to bring that same advantage to Armenia.
We will return to this research part later, but this project sounds really exciting, but it's also a bit mysterious. I like to use this method with speaking to AI chatbots. I ask them to explain a statement or a term that even a 10-year-old would understand. Mm-hmm. So here is the prompt for you. Can you explain what AI factory is and how it will work so that a 10-year-old would understand? Honestly,
I love Rev's description of factory, so I'm going to turn it to you, and then we're going to jump in with our variations. I love the way you talk about how electricity and outputs are.
All right. Well, it's kind of a funny term, right? Factory.
You guys coined it, so you got to own this.
And so you're questioning, why is that? Maybe that's what's so mysterious. How is this a factory? Because it's a bunch of computers, and people don't think about computers and factories in the same light. But if you step back and think about what is a factory, what does a factory do? A factory is a machine where you give it two inputs. You give it power and energy, and you give it raw material. So in the case of an automotive factory producing cars, you have energy and you have raw materials like steel, plastics, whatever the physical things are. Then you use that energy to transform all of the raw materials into a refined product. The car comes outside, and that refined product is far more valuable than the sum of the inputs. So that's fundamentally what a factory is. You take raw stuff, combine it with energy, make some changes, and out comes something that's of more value. What we're talking about with building an AI factory might be confused with another term called data centers. We often use those interchangeably, but they're really very different. All of the data centers that we've been building for the past few decades are about something very different. They're not about producing an output that's more valuable than what you put in. They're about moving data around and storing data, which is valuable, but it's not something that you want to keep growing. Actually, quite the opposite. Enterprises and organizations have IT departments. IT departments are always trying to figure out how to make their data centers smaller, how to spend less money and invest less in there. It's all about minimizing the investment in that. But when you're in the factory business, you're in the business of producing something that's of more value, you want the opposite. You want to build them bigger and bigger, more efficiently, and you want to do more because you're taking things of less value and producing things of more value. So how is this a factory? Well, if we look at it with the same description I used for a factory, you take energy as input. That's clear. We're doing that with an AI factory. And we're also taking raw material into this factory, which is raw information. It's ones and zeros that are encoding information and knowledge, but raw knowledge. And we're transforming this raw information into refined knowledge. The output of it is what we in the industry call tokens. The tokens are encodings or representations of this knowledge. They're just numbers, but they're far more valuable because they're refined intelligence that's coming out of it. It's far more valuable than the inputs. And so what's happening in the world is intelligence is very valuable, arguably the most valuable thing you can produce in the world. If you have a machine that could produce such a thing, then you want to build as much of it as possible. And we're seeing the world is racing to go build AI factories everywhere. And NVIDIA has become the largest company in the world because we are providing the fundamental tools for building AI factories. And so Armenia is going to get to participate in this now.
And likely lead. So it's a factory of ideas, effectively, right? It's a factory of ideas and knowledge to bring humans and machines together to advance humanity in a sense as well. And that's where it starts. If you take that knowledge, almost for the math kids, the 10-year-olds, in a way you can think 1 + 1 = 10, which logically doesn't make sense, but it expands. Because with that level of compute and all the inputs you put in, you can generate all new things to advance technology. And we want a center of that to start here.
Yeah, I think the other important element what comes to Armenia itself, I mean, this is in general, but in Armenia, we have excess of power right now. So you can also, one element of this is that also the excess of power, basically, with this factory, we are transforming what it's called tokens. So what Rev just describing, so the output, the intelligence. And then this intelligence we can transport to wherever in the world through internet or through connectivity, basically.
Borderless, yeah.
If we have access of the power today, what we do with this excess power, we can't monetize it, so it's being lost, basically. Now with this solution, if we have excess capacity, we transform it to tokens and we sell it to Japan, for example, to US, to wherever we want.
This is a really important concept, what Alek is saying here.
So I'd say energy is one. There's a lot of intellectual capital in Armenia too. There's incredible brains, incredible universities, and it's at the crossroads of Europe and Asia. So it's actually a great place to take it from here to the rest. But at the same time, we're Armenian. And like I was saying, it's important for us to do something that's important and big. And that's what this project is. We're lucky to have a Rev, we're lucky to have an Alek. And with Nubar and all our energies, somehow 6 months ago, even though we were looking at it from different angles, it just collided. It's like going to the airport. You can go to the airport in 10 different ways.
We are lucky to have the support of the government.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
The idea of speed and velocity in the technology sector, that is the most important, the primary tool that you use to have an advantage over everyone else. And without it, you'll die. If you can't move quickly, you die. This is what constantly happens.
That's
Razmig knows this. It's particularly important at this moment because what is happening here, what I just described with this idea of AI factories, this is the beginnings of a new industrial revolution. The second industrial revolution started with an introduction of this miracle technology, electricity. We learned how to generate electricity and distribute it. And when it was invented, people didn't quite understand, what does this mean? Can you imagine 100 years ago, people going, I'm going to pay for a kilowatt hour of this thing that I can't see? What does that mean? The same way I was just talking about tokens. They couldn't quite understand it. But because we had one killer application, the light bulb, that people could understand, this gives me value. I can light up my city, I can light up my factories, people can work longer, people can live and operate more freely. That was valuable enough. We started building electrical infrastructure. It didn't start everywhere all at once. It started in certain places first. It started in the United States, in New York, and the first generators, the first electrical grids were all kind of cobbled together, but eventually it formed into an industry. And the largest companies for that period of time and for many decades after were essentially the companies that formed the electrical infrastructure for the world. General Electric, Westinghouse, these companies continued forever. And so now we are in this new industrial revolution, and the new technology is actually kind of similar to the old one in that what we're selling is something that's mysterious, people don't understand it, tokens. But fundamentally, we can understand that this is going to have great value. Today, we expect no matter where you are in the world, there's energy infrastructure. There's electricity, there's an electrical grid, there's power generation, and it's very, very important. Everybody has to have it. The same will be true for intelligence infrastructure, AI. Everybody is going to have these. There will be AI factories everywhere. and there will be distribution systems for intelligence. But what's great for us here in Armenia right now is we get to be one of the early players in this. We get to learn how to build AI factories. We get to learn how to operate AI factories and participate in this new industry that's forming. Just like there was no electricity industry 100 years ago, it formed and became huge. Now this intelligence industry is forming, and we get to join it in early and have an advantage over those that aren't quite doing it yet.
So talking about the talent in Armenia, how Armenian universities and researchers like startups will use this power AI factory can give.
We already had thought about this, of course, except thinking about, we already had meetings with some of the rectors of the universities, top Armenian universities, where we shared, of course, the idea and why it is here. One big piece of it is the business element that we talked about, that we transform energy, we sell these tokens, and there is economy out of it. But the other big element is the research, and what Rev was describing, that we can be ahead and by having access to this AI factory, we can do research there. And with research, this is what exactly the same example with NVIDIA. When they started early, they are now ahead of their competitors. I think there are hundreds of ideas now, because this industry is, to Rev's point, is just forming now. So if it is just forming, there can be many directions where we can be ahead of others. And the aim of this meeting that we organized was to first tell the importance, how important in the universities they pay like very high level attention to this. Second, how Firebird can help them to have access to this compute, which top universities now in the world have lack of access or limited access, even like the top ones. Even the big countries who have much bigger budgets and GDPs than Armenia, as I mentioned, don't have such level of access to the compute.
For the past decade or so, the forefront of the frontier of computer science has been about AI. And the basic instrument you need to do this research, to advance computer science, is an AI supercomputer. And there's a crisis that's actually formed in universities around the world, even the top ones in the United States. You have the best universities in computer science, Stanford, where Rազմig's from, MIT, all of them. The way universities are structured, even the wealthy ones, they don't have the capacity to go build an AI supercomputer. So this crisis has resulted in this strange behavior where the most advanced research in computer science is no longer happening inside the universities. All of those PhD students and postdocs and professors are coming to work at places like NVIDIA or Google or Meta, so they can get access to the basic instrument they need to do their research. And we are literally, in my team, I have professors at the top universities that work for me because they can't get enough compute power where they are in order to do their work. So by having this here in Armenia, Armenians are going to have an advantage that even in the United States, researchers don't have this kind of access, enough access directly. We can use this as a way to invite the top researchers in the world, the top minds in the world on the forefront of computer science, to come do their research here. And we can learn from them and up-level our universities, up-level our researchers and students by bringing them here and have top research in the world be done inside Armenia and start building Armenia's brand as a place where the frontier of computer science is done.
And just to add to that, we already started conversations, MIT, Harvard, Stanford, Berkeley, personally, where I had conversations. Ultimately, we want to give researchers, students, startups here, at least the ability to dream bigger. And I mean, I've personally invested maybe in 10, 15 Armenian startups. from Yerevan State to the Math Olympiad winners. There's incredible brains here. And for the last 10 years, I've been seeing this startup come. So not only we want to give them the base to grow from, but also the network, the knowledge, the ability to actually connect the Silicon Valley. All those things are important. So we want to build that capacity for Armenia. So not just give the compute, but also guide so we can really build like
That's
new
really
industries.
important. The compute, this is a catalyst. It's the thing, the seed that starts it. But we will encircle it with all of the different resources and properties that we need in order to make it successful to grow it. But without this piece, none of the rest will work.
Yeah, and Alik, we were talking about the areas we're strong in. We can imagine this in robotics. We can imagine this in space. And you know, we supported bringing Starlink here to build the infrastructure. We can support this with life sciences, with Nubar. So there's incredible talent that if we decide to go deep and come up with intellectual property in these areas, I think those are three natural areas that we can start focusing on. But it starts, the 0 to 1 for us is starting with Firebird 1.
Is there a confirmed location where AI Factory will be?
Not yet.
Not
we have
yet.
good ideas.
Not yet.
The only criterion that we should use to decide where it should be is where can we do it the fastest? We were talking about this earlier. Velocity matters. The most important thing we can do, the most important thing that needs to be done is for it to be built. And the faster we do it, the quicker we can show the world that Armenia is capable of doing such a big thing. Once we do that first one, then we can do many more. We can get more investment. We can get the whole world to say, okay, it's possible to do that here. The people are capable of doing it, and we can build more and more. So this doesn't have to be the last one. Actually, either we build 0 or we build many, many of them. We won't just build one. That doesn't make sense because it's a factory and factories produce things of value. And if we're producing things of value, we want to build more and more. We'll build many more of these. So we shouldn't get hung up on where this first one is. I mean, firstly, it doesn't actually really matter where it physically is. Most of the people that will interact with it and use it are going to be remote. You don't actually want to be there. It's like saying, I want a nuclear reactor next to me. You don't need it to be in right next door to you. You want it to be far away from cities and normal places. It's just a bunch of computers. It's a factory. You don't want to put factories in a normal place. There's more valuable things we can do with that kind of real estate in the downtown of a city. So we shouldn't be too concerned about where this first one is. We should only use the criterion that where can we do it the absolute fastest to choose, and we need to choose quickly because we're racing to go build this. Alik wants to get it done by the end of the year.
Yeah.
So how much land is required to build it?
Yeah, actually, these are very dense computers. So, to compare it with traditional data centers, so people can understand, one rack consumes about 4 to 6 kilowatt, in some cases maybe 8 kilowatt of power
For traditional,
for traditional data centers. For AI factory, the same size of the rack consumes 140 kilowatt of power capacity. So it's very dense supercomputer. So in one small space, you have huge power of compute. So that's why the space requirement, what comes to such AI factories, are not big. So for a sense, these 5,000 GPUs that we are building, inside location that we need is about 1,500 square meters. And then there is outdoor facility which can take another 3,000-4,000 square meters, but the factory itself is 1,500. So it's basically nothing from that standpoint. With the amount of power it consumes, it comes to 20 megawatt. So you can have 20 megawatt AI factory with 5,000 GPUs in 1,500 square meters.
So our readers are concerned that this kind of systems need more water than you can imagine. So I remember the study from the University of California that found that ChatGPT drinks a liter of water after every 50 to 100 prompts. So what can you say about this water consumption?
I'm not sure that's true. If that was true, we would have run out of water a long time ago. Last I checked, ChatGPT has 1 billion users or something, and the number of requests being made every single day. If it was consuming that much water, we would have run out of water on the earth right now. So I don't think that's actually a true statement.
I think there is, first of all, a lot of misinformation when it comes to water use. First of all, I mean, the data center that we are building is closed cycle, so we don't use water basically. It's once inside, so it's closed loop, so it's cycle. So there is no usage of water basically from that standpoint.
The water is used for cooling.
Yeah.
It transfers the heat out of the computers to a chiller of some sort that cools it, and then you put the water back in.
So it's closed loop. So it's not that new water comes in. I mean, maybe it's true if you count the circle every time, but it's the same water, so you don't bring additional water from outside. That's why
it's not a liter of new water.
Yeah, what I can say, like the vision for us ultimately is to make it sustainable, like make it even net neutral, possibly even positive for the environment, and we want to replicate that model. And nuclear is clean energy. We have other sources of abundance. We're lucky and blessed to have hydro here, to have solar here. There's so many sources of clean energy. And whatever footprint we do as a factory, possibly to rinse and repeat that in other locations and in other emerging markets, it would be sustainable. But on the water point, I agree that it's cycled. Water will be needed for liquid cooling. There'll be water towers, and being around rivers and the right location, I think, is critical for us as well. But we do understand the concerns, and it's actually an important question that you're asking, so it should be front and center. But being sustainable is very important for us, and that's the vision for all the factories going forward.
Yeah, we can state definitely that it will be, and it is sustainable.
What's the biggest risk each of you sees in this project?
I think it's not a people's risk here. I think the team is actually really strong and getting even stronger. I'd say the product side, we have an edge. We have ideas of what to build, how to build differently and scale. I think speed and execution are going to be critical if everything lines up.
And maybe to add as well, just we have also huge support from NVIDIA. We thanked everyone in this project. I would like also to thank Rev, first of all, for bringing this idea to Armenia, not to us, but to Armenia from 2019, and keep pushing this forward, so till it happened with, of course, without giving up with these last 6 years. So this is first thanks Rev for this, and second as well thanks to Jensen and to the team, the entire team NVIDIA, with whom we are right now discussing basically every day, with from top level to engineers who are giving huge attention to Armenia and to this project. And thanks to that, we are also, it's giving us confidence that we will be able to do this. I mean, because this kind of compute, this kind of data, AI factories, nobody built in our region. So it's not that we can find one guy who can come here and help us. So it's very unique knowledge and very concentrated.
That might sound scary because we're like, wow, how do we know how to build this? The truth is, there's almost nobody in the world that knows how to do this.
Yeah.
We are equal with everyone in the world. Everybody's trying to figure this out right now.
And so we have access.
We like hard problems. If it's easy, why do it?
Yeah.
Right?
So that's why, thanks to NVIDIA as well.
Thank you for this interesting discussion. That's all for today. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and watch our videos.